there's a lot of conversation going on about the Great Resignation and the times we're in right now, and all this movement and discussion about employees and employers, and I read some crazy posts sometimes. And let me not say they're crazy, but they're very one-sided. You know, like this one post I was telling you about the other day where they were like, somebody wrote this post on LinkedIn about, oh, people shouldn't have to commute to work anymore. Everybody should be able to work from home. It's no purpose in going to work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So most people responded, agree, like whatever. So I responded. And typically I stay out of this stuff, but I'm like, whatever, I'm going to say something. And I was like, you know what? You do bring up some valid points about working from home. But I was like, working from home is a privilege. And let's be absolutely clear. The majority of people who work in America do not have a job where they can do from home. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote underneath very nicely, and it's polite. I wasn't like trying to go hard because I know how you be on me about that. I was like, if you work from home and you're advocating people to work from home, I was like, when you sit at home and you work, how do you get food when you have lunch? Somebody delivers it to you. That delivery person cannot work from home. When you decide to leave your house when you're working from home and go to the local cafe or the restaurant to have lunch or to get your cup of coffee, guess what? That person cannot sit home and serve you that cup of coffee virtually. So let's keep it in context when we talk about some of these things and how it applies across the board. Because, and you're talking about showing up and showing, that has spilled over into other areas, I believe, of the workforce. And people see this stuff on the internet and they're just like, and I believe people should be empowered, and employees and employers should be held accountable, and there should be, there should be a fair playing field, and things should be equitable to a certain degree. But let's be absolutely clear. That does not work in every environment. And how many, and we've talked about this before in other episodes of Commerce and Chill. The largest employers in the United States are small to mid-sized businesses. And a lot of those, as they would consider,
the largest or the greater?
The greater.
Small businesses employ the greatest number.
Employ the greatest amount. And the majority of small businesses are not some business where people can work from home. And I also put in here, let's keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, when COVID was happening,
when COVID
was at its peak and we were all on lockdown, not all of us, but a lot of us, depending on the type of employment position you have, people were on lockdown. But when you were on lockdown, how did you continue to get the necessities that you needed? Somebody had to go to the grocery store and ring up the cash register. Somebody had to stock the shelves. Somebody had to drive the vehicle to bring those items to that store for you to get. Somebody had to show up at Starbucks, right? Somebody had to be, at the local laundromat where you go to do your laundry, or even if you didn't do it, you decided to use pickup and delivery, soapbox. Somebody still had to come pick it up and take it back, do it, and then deliver it back to you. Like it's relative. But you were going to say before.
Just always, and this is something that I'll talk about until I'm blue in the face, understand what value you bring to the situation. Right. So when we're talking to prospective clients, if we understand what their needs are, then we can speak to how what we do meets that need. If we are applying for a job, which means that we probably didn't do that well in business, but hey, sometimes things happen.
It's about us applying for a job?
Yeah.
I'm going to give me a job.
If I am applying for a job, I'm going to understand how my skills and experiences bring value to the organization to which I'm applying, right? And
I can do that.
I'm going to have confidence in what I can do and let my experience speak for itself, but then also let all of this speak for what's possible. What?
No, I'm just listening.
Just remember, number 3, that
number 3,
your meeting is an opportunity for you to ask questions of the person on the other side of the table, or the other side of the camera, or the other side of the microphone. While your main goal of the meeting is for the person or organization to evaluate you, what you bring to the job, what you bring as a vendor or supplier, it's also a chance for you to learn about them.
And should use that to your advantage. Mm-hmm. Remember when you were asked to sit on the board of a very prestigious firm in the security industry, and one of their partners, financial partners, they wanted you to go meet. I'm sorry, when you were asked to sit on the board, they wanted you to go meet with one of their financial partners who sat on the board and invested heavily in the firm, very heavily, big numbers. And they said when you finished meeting with them, and then they called, I'd say, our partners / our friends / partners now, because it was like, I don't know, 8 years ago, give or take, maybe longer. It was about 8-9 years ago.
8-9 years ago.
When it was over, and they called to talk to the chair of the board, and they were like, "Yeah, we met with her," and the chairman was like, "Yeah, how did the interview go?" And they were like, I think she interviewed us. We didn't really interview them, because you used the opportunity to ask all these questions and learn all about them. And then you came back and tell me how they're invested in this and how they brought all the shares of this big company. And because they brought the shares, they became the majority stakeholder, and like all these other things that happened. I was just like, damn, like, did they interview you or you interviewed them? And that's exactly what he said.
Remember, a meeting is a gathering of people for discussion.
And it worked out.
Discussion implies that there's some exchange. It's a back and forth. So it's not just somebody talking at you or you just talking at them. So if it's in an interview and you feel like you've done all the talking, maybe that's not so good. Or if the interviewer does all the talking.
Yeah, like.
That might also,
depending on what they're talking about, you might get the job because they just can't shut up, and then they're gonna think they had a good interview with you, and I've seen that happen. Yeah, I've been part of that, where somebody in the interviewing team just kept talking and asking, and like they ask a question, but they would answer the question for the person, and then when the interview is over, I'm like, all right, so what do you think? They're like, I think that person would be a really good fit, and I'm like, based on what? No, really? They ain't say nothing. You was talking. So yeah, be super careful of that.
Right, and not to digress, but for a quick minute, like imagine if you go out on a date.
Let it out.
If you go out on a date with somebody, and they do all the talking.
Trauma.
Do you think that's gonna be good future?
I don't know. Tell us about it.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'm sure you've gone on a date at one time in your illustrious dating history. And the person just kept
illustrious dating history. Those words don't even sound like they go together.
They probably don't, but you know what? Somebody in Cumberson Jail give me a like for that. But and the person just kept talking the whole time. Like, what was that experience like? Like, what'd you think?
Oh, I can think of one time where
Here we
there was
go.
somebody that talked a lot, and we had gone out to eat, and the person also liked to eat a lot.
Was it a first date or a second date? Or you were a couple dates in already?
So I didn't really consider it a date.
When I say a date, y'all made an appointment to go somewhere together. She be always coming up with this thing when I be like, oh, so-and-so you dated. And she was like, it wasn't really a date. We just just
went for French fries and pancakes. Like,
but I'm like, was it the first, second, or third time? Like, it was, y'all had been out.
The second time.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in my book, that classifies as a date. There was a date, a time, and a location, and two people showed up. It was a date. So anyway, this was more than the first time you two met at a place and partake. Is it partake or partake? Partook in an exchange of verbiage and edibles, as in food, not weed. And he talked the whole time. So tell us, how did that go?
It's okay.
Like,
I'm sure he felt like he hit it out the park. I was just like, I'm not going out to eat with that dude no more.
Was the food good?
It was okay. It's like this one spot in Chicago where like a bunch of school friends, we go all the time. Like if we go for homecoming, that's the spot we go to after the homecoming party. Cause like they serve food real late and you get like pancakes and burgers and stuff. Like, so like for my drinking set of friends, stuff to drink, to soak up all the liquor. It was okay.
So he talked a lot.
And he ate a lot too.
So then how does that relate to what you're saying? Like you go somewhere.
I was just like, I was checked out. So I was just like, he likes to hear himself talk. He wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing. I was like if I had driven, I probably would have left the restaurant and been on my way back home to the south side. So
he picked you up. So you was captive.
I was captive.
Oh, man.
So don't hold an interviewer captive by doing all the talking. Don't hold a prospective client captive by doing all the talking. Make it a real discussion where you're exchanging information and going back and forth.
Sounds like a deal.
All right. You also want to practice your meeting skills. I'm not going to say interview skills. I'm going to say your meeting skills. You know what? We've been locked up in the house for 2 years, some of us, and we don't know how to interact with people. Like, I'm going to keep it 100. Like you don't know if you're supposed to shake hands or fist bump or elbows or whatever. You so used to talking to people on a screen, you see somebody in real life and you're just like. So I encourage you to meet up with some friends, business associates, people that you trust, so that you can get better on how you interact, whether it's in an interview situation or a business development situation. What?
I'm just thinking people interacting on Zoom and then they got on shorts or underwears and they stand up, and I'm like, you can't interact like that in real life outside. Be like, oh, show up at the restaurant. You got on gym shorts and underwears and you got a tie at the top to meet a client. Be like, don't stand up. Matter of fact, don't even lean over the table. Yeah.
The thing is, you want to be able to organize your thoughts and you want to be able to relay them verbally and succinctly. And so that's where practice will come in. So some of the things you can do is like get a group of friends to do that. What happened?
Nothing. I'm listening to you.
Right.
It's like get a couple friends.
And then there's some best practices for meeting in business sense that I think that we will agree folks can use, whether they're interviewing for a job or growing their business. Number one is be on time. Arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes early. Yeah. You know, for a long time, there wasn't any traffic on the highways. There weren't any people on public transportation. That's not the story anymore. Like some days we get here in 20 minutes. Like today it was 55 minutes. It's just loving it. Killer. And you don't want to miss an opportunity because you don't get there on time. Bring the supplies that you need and make sure that you prepare them the night before. Like, do like little kids do when they're going to school. Pack your bag, have it near the door. You know, like some of us are way more. What happened? Why are you shaking your head?
None. Keep going. Pack your bag.
Prepare a little bit better. So, like, I like.
Do you do that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In an interview situation, when you get to the question like, oh, do you have any questions? And somebody takes out their piece of paper, and they're like, yes.
I'm impressed when people ask questions during the interview. Like, I look forward to people asking questions because the questions they ask tells me something about them versus those that just be like, nah, I don't got no questions.
Nah.
I'm not trying to look at anybody in the room because I'm trying to think of people's interviews that are working here now, how the interviews went down.
Nah, I'm good.
Nah, I think I know everything. I'm like,
all right, when you get to the meeting place, you want to be considerate of all of the staff there. So whether it's the person that's cleaning up the water from you putting out pulling in your umbrella, or it's the receptionist, you want to be respectful and courteous because you never know. Those people can often be gatekeepers and might give feedback to the person you're meeting as to whether or not
100%
they should move forward with you.
I ask every team member here that interacts with someone, from the phone call with the receptionist, when they come in, they get greeted face to face. I'm like, how was that person? Were they nice? Blah, blah, blah. Or if they complain, like they mentioned to me, that person was kind of rude when they came in. But like, strike one.
Turn off your mobile devices. And yeah, especially if you have like a goofy ringtone, like that is not going to win you the job. And that's not going to win you business unless the person that's talking to you, that with whom you're meeting, has the same goofy ringtone. It's usually not going to work. But I saw something the other day that made like the hair on the back of my neck stand up on its end. I walked past the door. Cope was interviewing somebody, and the young man had his earpods in his ear the entire interview.
I love that.
When I talk about being courteous and polite and considerate, like, take your earbuds out. Or like you listening to your song, that's your song.
I love that. I love when they leave the headphones in.
Are you talking to your mans in them on the other line? Like,
would that be considered unprofessional ringtone?
Take the earbuds out. It is not professional. And dude, you with these ringtones, turn the alarm off.
I'm trying to find out which one would be like professional, unprofessional.
Right now, they're all inappropriate.
How about that one?
How about none of them so we can finish giving the folks the tips?
I'm right. I'm listening to you. Go for it. I'm trying to put my phone back to the normal ringtone. I don't want this thing to go off later. I got some whack ringtone.
Avoid scent and or jewelry that might be distracting. Like, luckily, we don't have people walking around with like dookie rope chains and the like. But
did she say dookie rope chains?
Is that
like, it's like so 1990s right now.
I'm just saying, you know what I meant.
I know. I know.
You saw what I was saying.
Yeah, but everybody else might not know.
Dookie fat gold rope. What you see?
Michelle Jenkins knows what that is. She's cracking up right now. She knows what that is.
So don't let your jewelry or the fragrance that you're wearing, even if it's just like a body lotion or oil, don't let it be so overpowering that it distracts the person that you're meeting, like that sound does.
I'm trying to set my phone
back.
I'm totally screwed this up.
Right before your interview. Right before we came in to tape this episode, I saw a guy walking down the street. He stopped Mr. Chin. He was like, "Yo, can I get a cigarette?" Look, I'm trying to stop Mr. Chin from smoking. I'm gonna need dude on the sidewalk not to encourage him to smoke or take a cigarette.
Yeah, don't smoke before you go to an interview. Yeah, because the smell will be in your clothes. It lingers. It travels. It's super important. And you never know. People have allergic to it. Like, you just don't know. Like, it's not even about whether you like to smoke. They don't like it. You don't know how that is going to affect some people. People have asthma. Like, it's just you got to think. You got to think.
Gotta think. That's cool.
No, you got to think all the moves. You got to try and think as many moves as possible ahead. Like, you go to an interview and they tell you always take extra copies of your resume. You don't know how many. You might know how many people are going to be in the interview. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. And if you're slick, you look at the calendar invite and see how many people on the calendar invite.
Or
if they don't block it, because there is an option to block it.
Or you ask, who will I be meeting?
Right. So it's just like that. You got to think about all these things ahead of time. Like, go ahead.
All right. If you want fresh breath prior to the meeting, make sure that you discard your chewing gum before the meeting starts. And if you partake of breath mints, get them out your mouth before.
Yeah, swallow it, chew it up or something, throw it away. Because you don't want a Tic Tac flying out your mouth while you're in the middle of an interview. That'd be mad embarrassing.
Ooh, no, you don't want that. Okay. Be enthusiastic and smile. Listen carefully to the person that's interviewing you and make sure you answer the questions that the person is asking.
Yes, don't like rambling. I have a habit of it, but make sure you answer the question. Like, don't beat around the bush. That is super annoying when I'm talking to a potential vendor to work with, or if I'm interviewing someone, or if I'm in a sales pitch with a team member and the prospective client asks us a direct question and then they don't answer it and they talk about all this other stuff. I'm like, bro, answer the question and then tell the story if you want. But whatever you do, make sure you answer their question.
And then before we close out, I just want to hit a few notes about body language, because body language says a lot. It's the language that talks. Let me talk to your body. Your posture, your eye contact, and your hand gestures all contribute.
This is my favorite in the interview.
To the impression that you make during a meeting. Like, didn't you have somebody come in the other day and they was just like, who was that?
I don't
like from grip when dude walked in the door.
My microphone has lipstick on it. Why do I have your microphone?
You want to switch?
No, it's too late now.
Okay.
I just noticed that. But they were like leaning on the table and it's like, oh, it's so hot outside. Like, literally, that's what they're. Oh, Hades, they must know you. They was like, oh, it's so hot outside, and then they sitting there. And I'm just like, damn, you can't suck it up for 2 minutes, at least. And when they escort someone to the conference room for an interview, I'll always wait. I let them come to the conference room and get settled first before I walk in, so they got time to catch their breath. If they were rushing down the block to get here because they were about to be late or they were late, whatever, I try to give them a few seconds or a minute or two to sit down, put their stuff down. Or they sit down with their coat on. They don't take their stuff and put in a chair. Like, they just sit here all bundled up. Like, I'm just hurry up and get this over with and hire me so I can get out of here. And you might not experience it, but it's very prevalent unfortunately in the security industry and some other industries that are very similar that is hiring from the same pool of potential candidates as we hire from.
So yeah, just in terms of body language, understand that your posture can either convey confidence or it can convey insecurity. Which one do you want to convey? Let your body speak on your behalf. Your eyes, right? You want to maintain eye contact with the person with whom you're meeting. You show them that you're serious. At the same time, don't scare them. Like, don't.
What if they make you feel scared and you keep looking
Swallow
away?
it up. Swallow it. Focus all your attention on one person at a time.
You not look at me like that. It's making me scared.
Okay. But then make sure that you engage others. So it's almost as like if you were giving a public speaking, if you were at a public speaking event, you know, I'm not going to talk to one person the whole speech. I'm going to look around the room. I'm going to make eye contact with Hamlet. I'm going to make eye contact with Mr. Lau. And they all feel like they're part of the speech. Like I'm talking to them. Am I talking to you? Am I talking to you? Am I talking to you? Make sure you have the eye contact. Hands, avoid fidgeting. Fidgeting might suggest that you're nervous. Use your hands to express yourself and make sure that when you use your hands that you are emphasizing what you're saying. You're not just using your hands to be like, make your point and be done. And then with your language, be clear and concise. Avoid using filler words such as like, well,
You know, I do it all the time.
Sentences and phrases. Do not ramble. Get to the point. And then when you finish making your point, stop. Silence is perfectly acceptable.
When you hire them and they're working, you got to look for those 1-star reviews. But the challenge is not a problem. You can't look at the 1-star review in the interview because they don't exist. So what you have to do is you're guessing when you hire someone. You're making the best guess based on a pool of candidates you've interviewed, based on their resume, their experience, and how they get along in the interview.
I'm going to beg to differ a little bit because I would be the first one to say that many people, when they show up for job interviews, they send a representative.
That's why you're guessing.
But there's some people that come full frontal who they are. For example, the other day we had a young man come in and our HR manager said she felt like she was at the club. Like dude was about to break out in a freestyle. He had on his acid wash jeans and his best fitted.
But you know what? I respect him for that because he came as who he is.
And he can go home who he is, yet unemployed.
Yes, no problem. But at least he came. He showed her in the interview who he is. I have much respect for that versus him coming in and trying to pretend to be something he's not. So then if he gets the job under that pretense and then he crumbles during the probation period, or even if he makes a pass, he crumbles because now he can't keep up the facade, right? So I have more respect for someone that comes to the interview and be like, listen, this is who I am. I can only add up to 12 in my head, and you want to hire me for an accountant position, but I'm really good with a calculator. Okay, I know what I'm getting. Versus the person that comes and they put the suit on and they all professional and they had their friend do the resume and somebody else did this, and then they come in and present it. I'm like, wow, they got a nice portfolio, they did this. And then when I hire them, I'm like, okay, I need you to go do X, which is similar to what was in your portfolio. And then they're like, what's Excel? What? What do you mean you don't know what Excel is? And on your resume it said you're proficient in.
File save as.
Oh, I thought you said that. This was a message on my phone. But it says you're proficient in Excel on your resume. But you don't know what Excel is now that I hired you. That's you're making an educated guess based on the information that's presented to you. So he came in his club attire. I respect that. He didn't pretend, but you're still guessing on what you see. It's an educated guess. Their face says you think different.
I think that's crazy.
What's crazy? Guessing?
No, I think it's crazy showing up as your authentic club self.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you on. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm not saying that people can't be authentic and at the same time be appropriate.
No, I'm not saying don't get me wrong. I'm not saying someone should come to the interview like that. I'm looking at it from the other end of the spectrum to say I respect it because you came as who you are, because that's how you're going to show up to work when I hire you, because you're probably not going to want to wear your uniform all the time because you're going to be feeling very comfortable or very clubbish. I'm just saying I respect it because you just made it easier for me to understand who you are, what you bring to the table, and what you don't for this type of position. So maybe he's a good fit for a different type of position where I want someone who wears club attire.
Okay, so I'm going to put it out there like this. I have a lot of stuff to do. So if I'm going to meet with someone for purposes of interviewing them for a job interview, a job opportunity, don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. Like, if you're going to show up in your full club authentic self and we not going to the club, don't show up at my office. Like, I'd rather you call and say, I changed my mind, because you're wasting my time and you're getting in the way of my potentially seeing somebody who might be a good fit, might be appropriate, and know what to wear, not only to the job, but also what to wear to the interview. And the challenge is, too often, we as a culture, we as a society aren't taking the appropriate steps to train people to work. Right? Yeah, they got workforce development programs, but I'm saying in terms of building work ethic, knowing how to show up on time and show up and be present, we as a society are not really good in demonstrating how that works. And so, not pointing to any specific age demographics or socioeconomic demographics, but I would just say the more people that we come in contact of late, that people just don't understand how to show up for work. And so when presenting themselves for job opportunities, don't present their best self. So if you want some tips on how to show up as your best self to get a job, holla at your girl. I'll help you.
So always send a thank you note, and then evaluate how you think you did after the meeting.
Don't put that one down, because people gonna be like, oh, I crushed it. They gonna be like, oh, I did a good job. All I gotta say is, if never mind. But yeah, you should evaluate it. Go ahead. They're gonna be like, oh, I crushed it.
And then when it's all said and done,
but they ain't called me back.
hit us up in the DM and let us know which of the tips that we've shared today you've been able to incorporate, and how well they've helped you either in interview situations or in meetings with prospective clients or prospective partners. We've had a lot of meetings and got a lot of experience in putting the things that we shared with you into practice. So we wouldn't want to lead you astray. Chief, do you have any closing remarks?
No, because I'm meeting out. So taking my advice on meetings these days might not be a good thing.
So remember,
I'll be like, get to this
you
point.
have a meeting, show up and show out, so that friends like Michelle won't want to put you out to pasture. And
don't use Instagram grid programs for your photos.
And so you can get the end results
All
that
right,
you
Michelle.
want for yourself and for your business. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Commerce and Chill. In closing, I am Jessica Johnson Coe.
Waleed.
Thanks.